Welcome to the village. Okay, Marcia's back. Or I'm back with Marcia in her house.
I'm back.
Yeah. Last time we were with Jack, but now it's just us, which is a good thing because today we are
Talking about
sex. We're so mature.
We are. I mean, it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a necessary thing.
It's a thing.
It's funny how you can laugh or giggle about it in your 40s.
It's one of those things, right? In life, there's 10,000 embarrassing things. Sex is one of them. And the embarrassing things you have to be able to laugh at and you have to be able to talk about. It's one of those things.
You're so right. Yes, you have to be able to talk about it.
Yes.
I do embarrassing things at work every day. But this is... Well, tell me what you think first.
I remember saying to my kids when they were maybe 11, 12, everything that happens to you from the time you are 12 years old till you're 20 years old is either going to be weird, gross, or embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens to every single person. No matter how weird or gross or embarrassing it is, we can talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our house, when they're 12, there is no overtly sexual conversation, but they're prepubescent. There are things that are happening. You need to kind of talk about those things so they know that it's normal. I never wanted my kids to feel like something that was going on with them, it was just them. Something was wrong with them. We definitely had very honest conversation.
Yeah.
I think, it's hard to say who's it more uncomfortable for, right? Is it more uncomfortable for them because they definitely don't want to talk to their parents about this stuff? Is it more uncomfortable for you because really no one wants to bring this up with their kids?
Yeah.
So on both sides, you just sort of have to just bite the bullet and talk about it.
Yeah.
And I think in my case, I'm certainly not going to generalize for everybody, but in my case, and a lot of it has to do with my background. I mean, I've been an OBGYN nurse for 12 years.
Yeah.
So that's huge. I mean, my kids would come visit me in my office prior to being at St. Mary's, and there would be models of vaginas.
Yeah.
And, there it is.
Yeah.
It's right there. So there was proper terminology, and it was just something we've always talked about. Prior to actual sex talk, when they were little, I'm a sexual assault nurse.
Yeah.
So it's really important at some point to talk to your children with appropriate names for what they have, so that heaven forbid something ever happened to them. If they have an injury, if they're in this horrible situation, they can talk to you about it in a way that means something. Not that they've been harmed, but if something happens, little girls, sometimes they have issues. Their underwear are too tight. Their soap is bothering them. Whatever it may be, well, this area is irritated.
Right.
And if your child refers to this area as their cookie or their, right? Kids have little funny names for this.
Yeah.
Do you really know what's going on?
Right. And you had mentioned that too. And Dr. Godoy, who I had spoken to, the gynecologist, had said the same exact thing.
Yep.
And the American Academy of Pediatrics had recommended using the correct terminology early on. And to your point of if something happens, especially something kind of dangerous,
right.
I've had, sadly, some parents who come in and they're worried about sexual assault or there's some kind of sexual abuse that happened or may have happened, and the little boy or girl, particularly more girls in this particular situation, they would describe something, they would quickly say it, and I wasn't quite sure the name they used, and it's not a familiar term to me,
right,
whatever they were using, so I couldn't quite gather. And how do you accuse someone based on a nickname?
Right. And to kids, if you react, and any parent who has a child that tells them they're being hurt in this way is not going to react in a positive way.
Right.
Okay. So you have a child who says, something happened to my cookie, and a parent reacts badly, they're not going to repeat it.
Yes.
They're not going to
Yes.
say it again.
Right.
They're not going to elaborate. That's like your one shot.
Yeah.
So
you only get one shot at that stuff. Because, like, when they bring their kid to me for follow-up, from telling the parent and then going to the ER and then maybe seeing the child abuse specialist.
Right.
Or the child abuse, the examiner in the ER, hopefully, like you. By the time they come to me, it's done.
This poor kid has had enough.
No.
They don't want to talk about it anymore. They're embarrassed. They feel like they've done something wrong because they know this is a bad situation.
Yeah.
They know something is not right. They don't know what it is, but they know that something's not right. They know that mommy and daddy are upset. They know they have to keep going to the doctor. Like, it's an ordeal. So they're not going to talk about it. So if you can at least, bare minimum, use proper terminology. I mean, I grew up, my mom was a nurse. It was never a big deal. These were just like, that's what it was called. It wasn't funny. It wasn't weird. If your ear is your ear and your arm is your arm, it was just what it is.
Yeah.
And it's not like we threw the word around or talked about it all the time, but
yeah, it's just an awareness. Like
exactly.
Just a general awareness, and it doesn't have to become a big deal. It's just kind of there.
It's just what it is.
Yeah.
But I think as kids get older, obviously women talk a lot. You know, you talk about, oh, the first time you got your period, the first time this happened to you, hormonal things. I think it's really important to prepare girls for something like that because little girls think obviously you think something's wrong.
Yeah.
If this happens to you and you're not prepared. And the same thing with like little boys and their physiological changes at puberty.
Yeah.
We need to prepare them a little bit.
Yes.
We need to lay the groundwork. Do I think that kindergartners need library stories read to them about sex? Absolutely not. They're not at a level where they can comprehend that. Is it okay? In my opinion, all in my opinion, is it okay if kids have 2 moms and 2 dads? Great. It's just like the boy next to you or the girl next to you having a mom and a dad. But that doesn't have to be a sexual conversation.
Right.
That's just their life.
Yeah, don't pick on the kid next to you who has 2 moms or 2 dads. Like, that can be a lesson in bullying.
Yes.
It's just, we don't have to talk any more than that's the fact and that's their life. And
not everybody has a mom and a dad.
Yeah.
Some kids have 2 moms, some kids have 2 dads, some kids have a mom and a dad.
And you be nice to that kid regardless of
Right.
whatever their home situation is. Not your business.
But that still doesn't involve sex.
Right.
That's just
You don't have
logistics.
to know what that means.
Right.
And just like how you don't have to necessarily know beyond what's appropriate for a 5-year-old mind or, you know, a pre-adolescent mind is going to be different than the adolescent mind, than the more mature mind beyond.
I think the best thing that parents can do, and I am a proponent of, you do need to have the conversation. There does need to be some sort of conversation, especially in this day and age where kids get all of their information either online, from their friends. It's a lot of misinformation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a lot of, you know how teenage girls are, teenage boys are. They say things to be funny. They say things for effect.
Yeah.
I had a daughter who was a little bit more on the naive side.
Yeah.
And she was, if kids told her something, she would believe it. Not true. So I think you definitely have to be, as the parent, be the one who sort of opens up conversation, allows your kids to come to you with uncomfortable things, and just present it. Give them facts. It doesn't have to be a deep, gory, detailed conversation, right? But I think, too, it's very important, and we do a huge disservice to teenagers. We don't talk about anything other than the physical aspect of sex.
Yeah.
We do not prepare them emotionally or how to handle that.
And we tell them the no's. You shouldn't do it because of this. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that.
Right.
But just because we are saying this to them, it doesn't mean they're going to listen.
No.
Because they're going to listen to everybody else around them. And those voices are going to be a lot louder than the adults, especially the parents, if all the parents ever say is no.
Correct.
But if the parents are an open source of communication and just information that's shared in a non-threatening way.
Right.
Like, not, you better not, okay, not like don't do that. And it's
kids aren't going to listen. Don't, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is all we tell them. Don't drink. Don't do drugs.
Yeah.
Don't stay out late. Don't do this. Don't put this on social media. Don't.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, a 16, 17, 18-year-old, they have their own feelings, their own opinions. They know how they feel about someone. They know what they know. And we're only going to sway their opinion just so much. At some point, the best thing that we can do is offer information. Offer information and also be open to listening to what it is they want to tell us.
What age should we start offering this information? Like, and what kinds of information? We can't just take it for granted. A teenager. Right?
I'm a real proponent for this is a parental decision. In my personal case, I think with a daughter, with a girl, it's really important to start talking to them when they're at the age where they could be starting to get a period. Because that's when a lot of changes start taking place. Physical changes, mental changes, emotional changes, hormonal changes, a lot of things are going on. And I think it's really important to prepare young ladies for that and let them know these things are normal and also what may not be normal.
Yeah.
Like, this came up, talk to me about it. Even the bizarre thing of like what to use for your period. Like, girls need to be able to ask these questions and talk about it.
They do. I feel like your children should be able to come up to you for anything.
Yes.
And not and they might be a little nervous or weird to say something, but they should be able to do it.
And it's really going to be based on your response.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Your response, you may be dying inside and really screaming because you do not want to hear what's coming out of their mouth. But you have, really put the game face on, listen to what they have to say, and try to help them. Because obviously, if they're coming to you with this information, they need help. They need guidance. They need support. They need something to figure this out. They need help figuring it out. And the same thing with boys.
Yeah.
For me in particular, talking about these issues has not been so bad because of what I do. So I've always talked to my son about it. And, sometimes it'll be in the form of jokes. Sometimes there'll be a car ride home from somewhere. Now that he's in college, I'm sure, and I'm very happy that he doesn't disclose everything to me.
Yeah.
But I know that he would come to me if there's a problem. And I feel like as the mom of a 19-year-old boy, that's the best I can ask for.
Right. Yes.
So I feel like I've prepared him to be safe. I've prepared him to be cautious. I've also tried to do a good job of trying to make him be mindful of girls' emotions.
Yes.
At least be aware of the way you treat a young woman. And
I think you've done a stellar job of that, because if anybody listened to the teenager named Jack Gen Z episode, you will learn how amazing he is. And for anybody, if just in case I can't edit out that background noise, we do have a dog in the midst. So that's just a doggy walking around.
Yes.
I think people understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people have pets.
A lot of people have dogs walking around.
They do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Jack is, I hope, every mom of a boy hopes that they're aware and mindful and kind.
It would be nice to put those gentlemen out there for the future.
Yes. My daughter is extremely strong-willed. I think my conversation with her was more around the age of 15, 16. I don't think it's even in age. I think it was more circumstances.
Yeah.
She had a very serious boyfriend, and my conversation with her was just, okay, I remember what it was like to be this age. So
Marcia made cookies. This is so good.
They're delicious.
Pumpkin, because it's fall.
Okay, you're this age and you're having these feelings, and let's have a talk about it so that you are going to be safe and prepared and do what you need to do to take care of yourself going forward.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we've not had any issues. We've been able to talk about anything she ever wants to talk about, and I feel okay about that. And I know above all else, the only thing I want for both of them, and I know every parent feels this way, if something were wrong, she would tell me.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I want. I can endure the embarrassment of a conversation. I can endure hearing something that I really wish I wasn't listening to, or details I never wanted to know. Because at the end of the day, if something is wrong, she's going to tell me, or he's going to tell me. And that is the only thing that's important to me.
I think what really you're encouraging parents to do is to have that good game face and keep your emotions. Are you loving your own cookie? These
really
are
good.
delicious pumpkin cookies with a nice frosting with a little bit of a cinnamon powder on them.
Cream cheese.
Cream cheese. That's so good. But just really, really being able to keep your emotions a little bit stable. I think a lot of parents, their anger comes out, or there's disappointment, or when it's already a difficult situation, it's taken everything your child has to tell you. But let that not be mistaken for just being like the cool parent who like, oh yeah, just do whatever you want.
Right.
I'll just get you a box of condoms. It'll be fine. Let's not just say do whatever you want either. Let's have good, intelligent conversations about how to stay safe physically and emotionally.
Yes. And there has to be a conversation about consequences. Like, these things could come of this. Okay, you're in the moment and this seems like a great idea. However, when this happens, here is the potential of the aftermath of this. We truly live in a time where social media is everything. Everything is posted. Everything is on Instagram. Everything's on Facebook and Snapchat. And it's not like when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
Okay. There was no possibility of us sending naked photos anywhere.
Right.
It just didn't exist. It wasn't a thing at all.
Yeah.
And now it's become so commonplace. Like Snapchat, it's there and it's gone.
Yeah.
One of the conversations I had with my kids was, whatever you put out there, it's never really gone.
Yeah.
It's never really gone.
Yeah.
It will always exist. If you put it out into the universe for someone else to see, it's going to be there.
Yeah, if you run for public office one day, it'll come out.
Yes.
To exactly what you said, that it is everywhere. There's even like the music lyrics, the television, everything.
Oh, yeah.
The ratings have kind of changed in a way. Like
Completely.
what children can see or listen to. There's innuendos in songs that are not just certain artists or certain songs. It's pretty much everything.
Constantly. And it's not just like the language, the sex, the drama, the violence, the amount of things that are on television
Right.
every day. It's not even comparable to what we were watching.
Yeah. So like we were saying, regardless of what you say, your kids are going to hear it from other people. So wouldn't you rather they hear it from you? If you don't talk about it, that doesn't mean they're not talking about it with other people, especially their friends and other people that don't know what they're talking about. So
And let's be honest. If high school kids, this is all they talk about.
yes.
I mean, it is in their face. It's in their face at school amongst their peers. It's in their face on the bus ride to school. It's in their face on every video game they play, and every movie they watch, every piece of music they listen to. It's just a humongous thing in our world. It just is.
It's funny you say that it's on the school bus on the ride home, because I actually had a 16-year-old boy in my office the other day whose mother told me that I needed to talk to him about, she said, tell him to keep it in his pants. I tell him to keep it in his pants. And I said, first of all, he's not going to keep it in his pants because you and I told him, keep it in your pants. Secondly, his first ever sexual encounter was on the school bus.
Oh, gosh.
Yes. So people are literally seeing it on the school bus.
Literally, yes.
And I said to him, well, who was the girl? Like, how old was this girl that wanted to do this on a school bus?
Right.
Same age. And I think it had been the year prior or something, so not quite 16. And then I said, well, how did that even work? That was like, my mind was just blown.
I mean, if you think about like opportunity, right? You have to go to school. At that age, are you really allowed to be left home alone with, a person like in this way? So it's opportunity. I think it's almost harder to talk to boys about sex than girls. Maybe it shouldn't be that way, but I know for me, I was the parent that always talked to them in a frank manner. And again, I think it's the conversation I had with my son was, okay, these are the things that are going to happen to you. This is normal. It's normal but here's where and when it's appropriate. At school, on a school bus, there are times and places where certain behaviors are not okay.
You see, I had another kid who was at 14. Mm-hmm. Him and a young lady, that was their first interaction, was in a bathroom stall.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that bothers me, which I asked the other school bus kids, like, what were the other kids doing? His response was they were laughing.
Yeah.
So it's becoming this humorous, like it's just funny. And the bathroom stall,
it's dirty.
To me, I just don't. First of all, what was lost in their minds that made them think that this is an okay thing to do? I mean, why is it that they don't know that? Like, I just feel like whether your parents talk to you about sex or not, why is it that you don't know not to do it in a school bus or bathroom stall? What happened there?
Well, when did it become just a joke?
Yeah.
When did it lose this is saved for someone that you love? Okay, maybe at 16, at 17, you feel like you're in love with someone.
You think you love someone.
Okay, that is a very big difference than being 14-year-old and on a bus chair or on a bus seat.
And see, the thing is that, okay, leave those kids or those families to what they're doing. I mean, I say what I need to say at the visits. I don't know what the parents are saying or not. That's besides keep it in your pants.
Right.
But a lot of them come to me for the one to do the talk.
Right.
And, you're not going to listen to a pediatrician. You have to be able to talk to your parent. Your pediatrician talking to you one time a year
isn't going to
do it. They're going home to an influence. And think about all the kids in that bathroom and in that bus. That could be your kid. That could be my kid. That could be anybody's kid who has to watch that.
Exactly. And not know what's going on, and not know how to react. What about the kid who's watching that and feels really uncomfortable about it and feels like this is wrong?
Yeah.
But what are they going to do now? Because if they speak up and say this is wrong, well, then they get bullied.
Yeah.
Then they get picked on. No, we live in an extremely difficult time to be a teenager or a preteen. It's terrible.
Animals don't behave like this. They have certain rituals.
Yeah.
And they have certain norms that they
follow.
will follow. Mm-hmm. In fact, I don't like the term, are you an animal? Like, no, animals are actually very precise and they are civilized within their own civilization. Yeah. So you're not being an animal and you're not being an alien. You're just being a very
disrespectful, inappropriate. Yeah. Yeah.
This is a disgrace.
It is. It is. We live in a time where things are done for shock value. Mm-hmm. Think about the TV shows, Jackass. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, there's an entire show where the premise is how ridiculous is what you're watching. That's the entire show, right? Like the gauge is how bizarre is what I just watched.
Yeah.
So with YouTube, with every single thing that you do, having the ability to be put on social media for people to watch. Yeah. Everyone wants the most viewers. Yeah. Everyone wants the biggest reaction or the most outrageous reaction. So they're doing things. You know what? I'm going to guess that probably 85% of the kids doing this stuff know that it's wrong. Yeah. They know that it's not okay. They know that it's terrible. They know all of this stuff and they don't care. Because they're looking for the shock factor. Yeah. They're looking for the reaction and making everyone laugh. And they don't think about what the consequences are.
Everything's a temporary high.
Correct.
It's all a drug. It's all an addiction.
Right.
Including, sex is a drug, right? You get a dopamine high.
Right.
I don't know how much they're feeling or experiencing that. That's a really deeper level of sexual talk and discussion.
Right.
That I don't know that kids understand, because what do they even know about that?
Right. And the flip side is the negative emotion. Mm-hmm. Okay, you have a 15 or 16-year-old girl who is extremely hormonal. Yes. And going through a lot of physical and hormonal changes, who gets into a relationship, who's really emotionally attached to a boy, who has an encounter with her or whatever for the reaction. Mm-hmm. And then what's the aftermath? The emotional damage when he stops calling or stops talking to her or rejects her.
Because in reality, and this may sound very like old school no, but we were all 16 once.
Absolutely.
This kind of phenomenon that you mentioned of feeling like, oh, I'm getting attention because it's the first time in my life I'm feeling like a sexiness at 16.
Right.
You didn't feel it when you were 10 or 12. You're like, oh, what is this new feeling? What is this new
Right.
body? What is this new attention that I'm getting? And then it continues into, if a girl does go to that step, and then the next day she probably feels like, oh, this boy is mine now. Because, we're women. I know there's exceptions, but women are built to want to feel that somebody is mine.
Right.
That
That love, that
has,
attention,
yes.
that adoration, that, yes.
If it happens prematurely in the form of a sexual encounter, which maybe you wanted, maybe you felt like you needed to give, that's a different subtopic that we'll get into in a minute. And then, like you said, if he either manipulated her or he felt that way or then he didn't feel that way, whatever the case is, chances of that blooming into this is now the love of your life until the both of you are 90, chances of that are very low.
Yeah. And I think it happens vice versa.
Yeah.
I think it happens to young men too.
Yeah.
You do have very sensitive young men who are, who are very in touch with their emotions, who get attached, and the same thing happens. There are girls who do this kind of thing for effect.
Yeah.
And who do it to show off or for whatever reason.
Actually, you're right, because now I'm thinking, historically we've thought about the girls that way. I have encountered so many instances now where the boys are telling me about what the girls are doing. I actually had a 13-year-old boy in the office who the dad, he said, I'm worried about him. He's been hanging out with this 14-year-old or 15-year-old girl, and I'm just worried. I want him to get STD testing because I don't know what they've been up to, what she's been, whatever the case is. He said, I've been there. He was a young dad. He's in his 30s and he had like 4 kids. And he said, I know what he's going through because I've been there, but he was just very worried about him. And for good reason, because he came back with herpes, genital herpes. He was 13. He had no idea what I was talking about.
Oh my!
I tried to explain to him that he has a lifelong disease. Of course, I tried to say it gently and explain to him.
He didn't have a clue.
He never heard of what that was.
And it came from a girl who was 14.
Yeah. And he was an innocent boy child. Right. And yeah, it came from her. Right. It came from her. This was just her little thing that she was doing. Let me just, sleep with this young boy.
Well, you know what? Good for that dad.
Yeah.
Good for that dad to be able to
right.
recognize, to bring him in, I'm sure there was some kind of conversation there.
Yeah.
And good for him to be able to do that for this young man and get him the help that he needed.
Yeah.
But 13. This boy is strapped with that
and
for the rest of his
The
life.
rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I explained
and for
to the kids.
Every other partner that he has. For his life partner, he will have to explain this and disclose this. And
he doesn't even really know what sex is yet. No, it is. And there's many other diseases that we know that can cost you your life. It is sad. It's sad what the society is doing. That's why we need to protect our children. Now, I can probably get advice from you on what to say to these kids who it falls on me. I can say something in hopes that maybe that's the one thing that they will be influenced by, because maybe the parents don't understand the disease aspect.
Right.
Maybe they don't understand the pregnancy aspect or the fact that birth control pills are not 100% and they don't protect against STDs. And maybe I can be, because like we said, it takes a village to raise a child.
Right.
So in that way, it is partially for me to have the influence when they're there in front of me.
Right.
But
you're an unbiased source of information.
Yes.
You're not mom or dad. You are an unbiased medical professional opinion.
Yeah.
That if they'll take anything away from a conversation that's presented to them, they will.
Because sometimes it's that one conversation you have, but don't depend on that. As the parent, what should you do as the parent?
Parenting is such an imperfect science. And I think you have to everyone knows their own child best. But I think that as parents, the normal reaction is to shy away from things that are uncomfortable. It just is.
Yeah.
You know, it is really hard to sit down and talk to your kids about sex.
Yeah.
You don't really want to say it. They don't want to hear it. So I think, one, it's important to start, I don't want to say young, but start at like a prepubescent age.
Yeah.
So that you're not hitting a 16 or 17-year-old in full-blown puberty with this really horrible, uncomfortable conversation. You know, if you're talking to them just as maybe some changes are starting to take place at 12 years old. Mm-hmm. You know, everyone in school watches the movie in health class.
Yeah.
When you're in 4th grade, 5th grade. That's the time to start bringing up certain things. I don't think that it's maybe necessarily the best idea to come forward with overly explicit information right away, but just a little bit at a time. As you start noticing changes in your child, start having conversation. And it doesn't have to be an everyday conversation, but every once in a while, hey, you know, there's a lot of changes that take place other than just sexual. Okay, like boys and body odor, and girls where they're growing hair, and breast development, and like, hey, I noticed this is happening. Do you think we should go shopping for a bra?
Yeah.
Or, hey, I noticed, like, you know, when you're in the shower, maybe, I don't know, maybe we should start talking about getting deodorant, maybe, and start like small. Start small with...
Make sure to get the multiple deodorants.
Yes. One for the gym bag, one for your...
feet deodorant for the pediatrician's office.
Yeah, for their shoes. I mean, I think if you start when they're a little bit younger, small things... so that when the time comes and things really are more important and changes are bigger, you're not shocking them with anything. They are hearing about things in school. They are exposed to things on television. At least open up a conversation so that if they don't understand something, they can talk to you about it. Yeah. You know, I think the biggest compliment as a mom that I'll ever have, my kids will ask me questions. I remember when my son, I want to say he was about 11, had gone to school, and my daughter was 14. He had gone to school, and a big topic of conversation was girls getting their period. This was like the it conversation. Yeah. And the three of us were in the car, and he said, "Mom, what's a period?" And I said, "Jack, do you really want to know? Because I'll answer you if you really want to know." And my daughter's like, "Don't tell him, he's gonna hate it." And so I said, it can sound like it may sound like a little bit gross, but I'll tell you if you really want to know. And he thought about it for a minute. And he said, "No, I really want to know the truth." And so I told him. And he sat very quietly in the back seat for, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. And then he said, "Molly, I'm sorry for you that you have to do that."
Oh, he's been so sweet since the beginning.
So he took the information that I gave him and like actually really thought about it. It wasn't in a sexual way.
Yeah.
It wasn't in a humorous way. It was so this is what happens to girls. This is why it happens. And this is, you know, kind of some of the things they feel when it happens. They don't always really feel good, and they can be grumpy and their bellies hurt, and this is what happens. And he really like took that information and considered it.
Yeah.
And like that was the end of the conversation. It wasn't hilarious. It wasn't, "Oh, Molly, hard." Yeah. It was really
just a matter of fact.
But then going forward as they got older, if the situation ever came up, "Oh my gosh, you know, Molly needs something for her period." It was never a big deal in our house. It just was what it was.
Yeah.
It existed.
It
was
and
not...
these things, whether it's a period or anything sexual, anything in puberty, it is a matter of fact of life. And I think the less we make it into a big joke and more a normalcy.
Right.
You know what's interesting? Because when it comes, there's some religious families or some more conservative families. So we were raised in an Islamic household. It was, religion is important. My family and I, we practice. So, you know, and I know people can relate to this because if they are strict Christians or Catholics, there's a big no-no about sex, premarital sex, all of this. I believe, because this is how I was raised, that even when that is the understanding, it doesn't have to be portrayed in a negative light and something you can't talk about.
Correct.
Because I have to say, like, I didn't even realize it being incorporated into my life. I think, let me see what you think about this. When you keep your kids from watching certain things, maybe watch it with them.
Yeah.
My mom watched soap operas, and from the time I was a little kid, I watched them with her. I didn't understand. She made me, hide my eyes for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And as I became older, I didn't have to hide my eyes anymore. So it was almost like, and I didn't realize this was happening until now, we're having these conversations and thinking about, how did it happen in my life? And why am I open with my mother about these things, even though we follow the traditional values and teachings of the religion, like many stricter practicing other religious people would. Especially in a Catholic hospital, I would understand that and how people follow these things. And I would think about that. I was like, I guess because when I was watching these things, I knew there was something going on there that wasn't really for my age. Right. And as I became older, understood it was more acceptable for my age. I knew what the expectations were, but I also knew that I could talk about it with her. Right. I could tell her, till today, she's known every single boy that I've ever, crushed on, whatever the case. Right. And she was fine. We would joke about, we'd talk about it, and it was fine. Like, she knew that I knew where to draw the line.
Even if there is that expectation, no matter what, and like I said, this is a very personal discussion with your children. No matter what your beliefs are, you can still have conversation. Yeah. You can still provide them with information. Yeah. And that can go along with, here is how our family behaves. Yeah. This is our moral compass. This is what we believe, and these are the rules that we follow, and this is the expectation that we have for you. But you can still give them information. Yeah. You can still provide them information to keep them safe. Right. Whatever it may be, you can still provide information without encouraging a certain behavior, without discouraging. You can just provide information.
And even with that, explain the reasoning. Mm-hmm. Don't say it's because I told you so. Yeah. Yeah. This is why this is the way that
this is why we believe what we believe. Yes.
And so then that can hold strong in that person's mind. Right. When life happens. Right. And you said that these open conversations, no matter which way, no matter what you would rather they do, you can always let your kids know what you like for them.
Of course.
And why. But then it comes to the safety and the emotion behind it. I think that's always something like a mother or even a father can try to explain to their children about the emotional aspect of it. Because like you said, why don't we talk about the emotion? Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal. It's a huge part of it. Yeah. I think that the curiosity about sex for kids is all physical.
Because it's just such a strange thing to do, right?
It is. It's a strange thing. It's, too, though, look at the way our kids dress now. Yes. Everything is a crop top. Everything is tight jeans. Everything is like the muscle shirts and the pants hanging down way low on the butts. And we even dress differently and more provocatively. And it's the nature of the way we live right now. Yeah. And the only thing we have control over in any of it is the conversations that we have.
Yeah, right. That is a major point. We're not going to change the world around us. Mm-mm. The world is going to be changing. We live in it. Mm-hmm. Our children live in it. And we have to give them the survival skills.
We need to prepare them for it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what do we say about the emotions? What is it that we're not addressing? Because if people are doing it in the bathroom and stuff, there's no emotion, okay? No. So something is missing there. That 14-year-old girl, that 15-year-old girl, and even the boys, they can have an emotion, right? Yeah. I mean, scientifically speaking, it's not as deep, perhaps.
Don't you think a lot of the sexual behavior that is younger and younger is, one, out of curiosity, and two, out of this need to meet some kind of expectation of their peers? Yes. Everyone is doing it. It's on YouTube. It's on TikTok. It's on Instagram. So the motivation behind the physical act is not an emotional connection. Yeah. It is not a feeling about someone. It is a curiosity and this need to want to keep up with the in thing. I want to be able to post this. Yeah. I want to be able to Snapchat this. I want to put this on the TikTok.
Everything is getting posted.
Everything is advertised. Mm-hmm. So I just think the motivation behind it is different.
Yeah.
You know, when we were young and you're dating, do you really like someone? Is he going to kiss me? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He kissed me.
Yeah.
And there's no text, right?
Right.
Like you're calling your girlfriend and you're getting a busy signal.
Right.
And they keep calling back and calling back.
Yeah, and you hope that you can't call then after 9 p.m. because
No.
you might wake up their dad. And...
So it's a completely different scenario. So now you're reduced to writing a note and folding it 17 times and passing it up during class. He kissed me last night. We are in, it's like the Twilight Zone of how different we grew up. And we're not very old. We didn't grow up that long ago. I mean, it is a complete, even from the time when my kids were little to now is completely different.
Yeah. Yes, it's changed in even the past 10 years, like you said.
It has. I really believe that the motivation behind the action, the desire for things to be publicized and shared. And
everything's about sharing and a quick snap and a quick hi.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of reminder, the American Academy of Pediatrics, this is what I kind of looked through before we came here together today. Just their recommendation about being a good example or showing your children good examples and just having like good influences that they can see. Sometimes it's easier said than done because not everybody is in a good relationship to show their kids. You know, if you're a person in a bad relationship, just saying, well, don't be in the bad relationship, it's a negative influence on your kids. I mean,
it's not that easy.
It's a good motivation, but it's not always that easy.
Yeah. No, I think that you can encourage or discourage all kinds of behaviors. At the end of the day, the best thing that you can do across the board is have conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing that's going to make any difference. Because the kids that are sort of on the fence, the kids who don't really maybe agree with what's on social media, the kids who aren't on that bandwagon, and I think this applies to everything, not just sex, to drugs, to drinking, to all kinds of behaviors. If they're not necessarily on board with it, maybe they need to talk to you about strategies with their friends of how not to do it.
Yeah.
Of how to like avoid it or how not to be bullied or ostracized because they don't want to partake in those kinds of things.
Yeah.
The only way that you're ever going to combat any of this is conversation.
Knowledge is power.
Absolutely. This is exactly what I used to tell my kids. The only person that's ever unequivocally going to tell you the truth will be me.
Yeah.
No matter what it is.
Yeah.
Good, bad, ugly. I promise you, I will tell you the truth about anything that you ask me. You cannot depend on your friends to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
They think they know what they know.
Right.
I know what I'm telling you.
We didn't get to be this age or look this good, but
I'm just guessing.
Right. Exactly. Not every parent has the good communication skills.
No.
So in that scenario, maybe your friend or your sister, but somebody else can maybe have the conversation.
Yes.
Maybe it's
an
another
older sibling.
Yeah.
Another adult, an older sibling. My mom grew up in the 50s and 60s. I never had a sex conversation with her. Never. It was not something we ever talked about in my house.
Yeah.
I had an older sister.
Yeah.
Who helped me through all of the things. Through getting a period. And I was in elementary school when my sister was in college. So by the time I got a little bit older and needed information and advice, I had an older sister. So listen, this is something it's just not going to be for every parent.
Yeah.
It just isn't. There are some people who really, truly cannot have this discussion with their kids. They just can't. And there are going to be some kids who truly can't talk to their parents about it. Yeah. That's just the way it is.
Some people's personalities are just not built that way.
It's just not going to happen. But help them seek out a reliable adult. Help provide them with a resource that they really can go to.
Yeah.
Maybe
a teacher.
A teacher or a coach. You know what? If you really aren't in a way where you think the only conversation you can have is with a pediatrician, maybe mom and dad should talk to you first and say, I don't know how to approach this. Yeah. This is very embarrassing for me. We are super conservative. I cannot talk to my child about this. Yeah. Can you open the line of communication and can you give me resources where to send my child to talk?
The medical provider is supposed for children is the whole child.
Yeah.
They should be the person that you go to. We're not just like the boo-boo fixer.
Right.
It's everything. And some parents take that literally to every single thing.
Right.
And some parents won't bring their kids in for anything but a cold. And I say, well, you should tell me.
Yeah.
I can help you, or I can find someone who can help you. But this is why, like, I have this podcast too. I'm not speaking about things that I only know.
Right.
I'm speaking to people so we can all be in the know together and figure it out.
Right. If you don't know, go to a place that someone who can help you find the resources you need. But like, we have to, and with COVID and all of the mental health issues, like, we have to get our kids some resources for everything.
Yeah.
We have to give them a place to go.
Because mental health does lead to sometimes irresponsible behaviors.
It does.
A high in any way, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes sex is a high for people.
Right. Or
like,
attention.
Attention, yeah.
It's attention. Even
False
if it's
love.
if it's for a short time. If kids aren't really getting a lot of attention at home, they're seeking it out in other places. And if this is the attention they get for this short period of time, they're going to do it.
I think we should explain to them the difference between real and a mirage.
Absolutely.
Right? That's something that is a really interesting concept of whether it's a friendship or other kind of relationship. What seems real, what feels real, because this is something we keep learning.
Right.
Even in your 40s, you keep learning about who's real, who's not real, and how to kind of wade through that. And how to be okay with what's not real. Like self-love.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or the person that I know that when I need someone to talk to, I can call my mom. I can call my sister. They've been there the whole time.
Right.
I tell these moms too, with the empty nest, they'll be back. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Because when you do hold strong to your kid and that love is always there, they're always going to be there coming to you for everything.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to let go.
It is, but I don't think you're ever truly letting go.
No. They come back, and it's usually with laundry. A lot of laundry. And hungry bellies.
Hungry bellies for sure. Talk to your kid, be reassuring, be empathetic about these emotions. Try not to be angry and act disappointed. You're just going to make them
You're going to make them shut down.
So just keep the poker face. Or what's a good way to say not poker face? Keep the game face.
Keep a game face on. Just non-reactive. Just be non-reactive. You just kind of smile.
Just smile and nod.
Smile and nod.
No matter what. Any final thoughts on, should we sing the Salt and Pepper song? Or
I think that might push us right over the edge, wouldn't it? Maybe that's for the next part of the podcast.
Yeah.